The Silent Plea. The Veldari Concord had known peace for 12 millennia. Their civilization spanned 23 star systems, a harmonious federation of 4 sentient species who had evolved beyond the primitive instincts of conflict and aggression. Their cities were marvels of bioarchitecture, seamlessly integrated with the natural environments of their worlds. Energy flowed freely, harvested from the quantum foam itself. They had mastered interstellar travel, terraforming, and the fundamental forces of the universe. They had forgotten what it meant to fight, and that would be their undoing. High Chancellor Ilaris stood before the Emergency Council, her crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the soft light of the chamber in prismatic patterns. The gathering had drawn representatives from every world in the Concord, their biomural projections filling the vast spherical chamber that orbited Veldara Prime. Outpost Ilaris has gone silent, Ilaris announced, her voice a melodic hum that resonated with the council members. No debris, no energy signatures, no quantum echoes. It is as if the entire station and its 30,000 inhabitants simply ceased to exist. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembly. Elder Nyx, whose consciousness had been preserved for over 6,000 years, spoke with a voice like distant thunder. This marks the 6th outpost lost in 40 cycles. The void entities grow bolder. They are no longer confined to the galactic periphery. The void entities, the name alone sent waves of dread through the gathered delegates. They had appeared 3 years prior, phenomena of unknown origin that consumed matter, energy, and the very fabric of space-time itself. They left nothing in their wake, not even the quantum signatures that all matter in the universe possessed. Our defensive measures have proven wholly ineffective, continued Ilaris, projecting a stellar map that showed the methodical advance of the entities through Concord territory. Our vessels, designed for exploration and communion, possess no offensive capabilities. Our shields, built to withstand stellar radiation and meteorite impacts, dissolve upon contact with the entities. Our predictive models indicate they will reach Veldara Prime within 60 cycles, added Science Director Thalen, a member of the aquatic Melosian species. Evacuation protocols have begun, but we face a fundamental problem. There is nowhere to flee. At their current rate of expansion, the entities will consume our entire region of space within 1 standard year. Silence fell over the council chamber. 12,000 years of peace had left them unprepared for extinction. It was Zora, representative of the silicon-based Lithosians, who finally spoke the unthinkable. There is one option we have not considered. The crystalline being's voice resonated with reluctance. Beyond the crimson expanse, there exists a species classified as Danger Category Alpha, a species that, despite achieving rudimentary faster-than-light travel, still engages in armed conflict, a species whose history is written in violence and warfare. You speak of the humans, Elder Nyx stated flatly. The restricted species. I do, Zara's crystalline form pulsed with anxiety. Our observation posts have monitored their development for centuries. They are violent, unpredictable, and fractious. But they possess something we have lost, the capacity and knowledge to wage war. The chamber erupted in protest. The humans of Earth were known to the Concord only through remote observation. Their planet had been classified as a restricted zone precisely because of their propensity for conflict. Concord scholars had watched in horrified fascination as humans fought among themselves for resources, ideology, and territory even as they reached for the stars. They would destroy us themselves, argued the Aetherian ambassador, his energy form fluctuating with emotion. Their psychology is fundamentally incompatible with civilization. Yet they build cities, countered Zora. They create art. They sacrifice for one another. And most importantly, they fight. They know how to fight. Ilaris studied the projection of Earth rotating slowly in the center of the chamber, a beautiful blue world, much like Veldara Prime once was before the Concord had expanded its civilization into orbital habitats to preserve the planet's natural beauty. What are you suggesting, Zara? Ilaris asked quietly. that we send a quantum transmission to Earth, that we ask these humans for help, that we place our fate in the hands of warriors in the hope they will choose to battle the void entities instead of exploiting us. The debate raged for 3 days. In the end, desperation outweighed caution. The Concorde had exhausted all other options. They had attempted to communicate with the void entities, to no avail. They had tried to outrun them, only to find the entities could traverse space faster than their most advanced vessels. They had even attempted to create rudimentary defensive technology, but without the cultural foundation of conflict, their efforts were hopelessly inadequate. On the 4th day, the Council made its decision. They would reach out to Earth. The quantum transmission was crafted with painstaking care. It contained basic translation matrices, star charts showing the advance of the void entities, and technical specifications that would allow humans to verify the authenticity of the message. Most importantly, it included an offer. In exchange for military assistance, the Concorde would share their advanced technologies. Faster than light travel far beyond Earth's current capabilities, clean energy production, life extension treatments, and more. As the transmission was launched toward Earth, Alaris stood alone in the observation dome, gazing at the stars. "Are we making a terrible mistake?" she asked Science Director Thalen, who had joined her. "Perhaps," the Malosian replied, his bioluminescent patterns shifting thoughtfully. "But the alternative is extinction. The humans are our only hope. And if they decide to conquer us instead of helping us, then we will have traded one doom for another." But alien designs based on the technical specifications provided by the Veldari. Each carried experimental weapon systems developed under a global cooperation initiative unprecedented in human history. Nuclear warheads, kinetic impact weapons, directed energy systems, and more exotic armaments theorized by Earth's brightest minds, but never before constructed. Captain Amara Okafor stood on the bridge of the EDF Resolute, Earth's first true interstellar warship. At 38, she had spent her career commanding nuclear submarines, experience that had made her the logical choice to lead humanity's first military venture into deep space. The Resolute had been an aircraft carrier before its conversion, its hull now reinforced with experimental metamaterials, its fighter jets replaced with aerospace craft, designed to operate in both atmosphere and vacuum. Its nuclear reactors had been modified according to Veldari specifications, providing power that would have seemed miraculous just months ago. "Final systems check complete," reported Commander Lai, her XO. "All ships report ready for dimensional transition." Amara nodded, studying the faces of her crew. American, Chinese, Russian, Nigerian, Brazilian, Indian, representatives of Earth's nations working together with a unity of purpose that would have seemed impossible just months ago. "Send the final message to Earth Control," she ordered. "Message transmitted," confirmed Communications Officer Patel. "Response received. Godspeed, Sentinel Fleet. All of humanity stands with you." Amara took a deep breath and gave the order that would change the course of human history forever. "Engage FTL drives. Take us to the stars." The fleet vanished in 15 flashes of light, leaving Earth behind to begin the 2-week journey to Veldari space and humanity's first interstellar intervention. The transit gave the crew time to study the Veldari data in greater detail and prepare for their arrival. The void entities defied conventional physics, existing partially in normal space and partially in some other dimension. They consumed matter at an atomic level, breaking down not just physical structures, but the very quantum fields that held reality together. "They're like nothing we've ever encountered," Dr. Eliza Mbeki, the fleet's chief scientist, explained during a briefing. "They don't reflect light in the normal sense. They absorb it completely. They generate no waste heat. They violate conservation of energy. They shouldn't exist, and yet they do." "Can they be hurt?" asked General Martinez, the fleet's military commander. "Unknown," Dr. Mbeki admitted. "The Veldari never tried to hurt them. It's simply not in their nature to think in terms of attacking or damaging another entity. Well, Martinez said grimly, we're about to find out. When the Sentinel fleet emerged from FTL on the outskirts of the Veldari Concorde's territory, they received their first visual confirmation of the threat. The void entities were visible even at this distance, massive undulating distortions in space-time that seemed to bend light around them. Their surfaces rippled with patterns that hurt the human eye to observe, geometric impossibilities that suggested dimensions beyond human comprehension. "My God," whispered Commander Lai beside Captain Okafor. "They're beautiful in a terrifying way." "Receiving transmission from Veldara Prime," announced Officer Patel. "They're welcoming us." The main view screen activated to reveal High Chancellor Ilaris. The alien was even more striking than the briefing materials had suggested. Humanoid in basic form, but with a crystalline exoskeleton that refracted light in complex patterns. Her large, multifaceted eyes regarded the human captain with an expression Okafor couldn't quite interpret. "Captain Okafor of Earth," Ilaris spoke, her words translated by the communication system. "Your arrival brings hope to the Veldari Concorde. We watch in awe as your vessels approach bearing weapons of war, a sight unseen in our realm for millennia." Amara straightened her uniform. "High Chancellor Ilaris, we come in response to your call for aid. The people of Earth stand ready to assist the Veldari Concorde against the threat of the void entities. We have prepared as you requested," Ilaris continued. "Our central systems have been evacuated to make room for your soldiers." She pronounced the unfamiliar word carefully, as if it were from a dead language recently rediscovered. "We appreciate your cooperation," Amara replied. "Now we need all the information you have on these entities, their movements, behaviors, any patterns you've observed." The meeting that followed revealed the extent of the challenge they faced. The Veldari scientists had extensive observations but few insights. The void entities seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime, making them difficult to affect with conventional weapons. They communicated through some unknown means and demonstrated collective behavior, yet each could act independently. "They cannot be reasoned with," explained Elder Nix, who had joined the briefing. "We attempted communication but received no response. They simply consume." General Martinez leaned forward. "Have they shown any vulnerabilities? Any aversion to particular energies or materials?" The Veldari representatives exchanged glances. "We have not thought in terms of vulnerabilities," admitted Ilaris. "Our science has focused on understanding, not harming." "Well," Martinez said grimly, "that's about to change." As the human fleet took up defensive positions around Veldara Prime, scientists and military personnel from both species began an unprecedented collaboration. The Veldari provided their observational data and technological expertise, while the humans brought their tactical knowledge and weapons technology. It was an uneasy partnership at first. The Veldari were profoundly disturbed by human military thinking, by concepts like acceptable losses and strategic sacrifice. The humans, in turn, were frustrated by the Veldari's inability to comprehend basic tactical concepts. Yet gradually, mutual respect began to grow. The Veldari marveled at human adaptability and creativity in the face of danger. The humans were awed by Veldari technology and their deep commitment to preserving all life. "Your species is so contradictory," Ilaris remarked to Captain Okafor during a rare moment of respite. "You create weapons that can destroy worlds, yet you cross the void between stars to help those you've never met." "That's humanity for you," Amara replied with a tired smile. "We contain multitudes." Their preparations were cut short when long-range sensors detected a group of void entities changing course, moving directly toward Veldara Prime. The battle that humanity had crossed the stars to fight was about to begin. Into the unknown. The void entities approached with an eerie grace, their massive forms distorting the very fabric of space around them. There were 7 in total, each roughly the size of Earth's moon, their surfaces rippling with patterns that defied comprehension. Captain Okafor stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the tactical display with a calm born of years of training. This was the moment humanity had prepared for, the reason they had journeyed across the stars. "All ships, battle formation Delta," she ordered. "Weapons systems online, defensive shields at maximum." The human fleet moved into position, 15 ships spreading out to form a barrier between the approaching entities and Veldera Prime. Behind them, the Velderi observation vessels maintained a safe distance, their sensors gathering data that might prove crucial in the coming engagement. "We're being scanned," reported the Resolute's tactical officer. "Some kind of energy beam. It's not on any spectrum we recognize." "They're curious," Science Director Thalen observed from his position at the Auxiliary Science Station. "This is new behavior. They've never shown interest in our vessels before. Maybe they've never encountered anything that might pose a threat," General Martinez suggested. The lead entity suddenly accelerated, moving toward the human fleet with impossible speed. "Evasive maneuvers," Okafor shouted, but it was too late. The entity passed through the space occupied by the EDF Intrepid, the smallest vessel in the fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The ship remained intact, its systems apparently functioning. Then, with horrifying swiftness, the Intrepid began to disintegrate, not as a ship would normally break apart, but as if it were being unmade at a molecular level, dissolving into nothingness. "My God," whispered Commander Lai. 112 people. Captain Okafor forced down her horror. There would be time to mourn later. Now, they needed to learn. "All ships, maintain distance. Do not allow the entities to make contact." She turned to Thalen. "What happened? How did it destroy the Intrepid without touching it?" "It didn't need to touch it," the Velderi scientist explained, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with distress. "The entity exists partially in normal space and partially in what we call null space, a region where the fundamental forces break down. Anything that intersects with its null space field begins to unravel at a quantum level. Then we can't get close enough to use conventional weapons," Martins realized. "We need to attack from a distance." "Helm, get us to minimum safe distance for missile launch," Okafor ordered. "Tactical, prepare nuclear payload. All ships, coordinate targeting solutions." The human fleet repositioned, maintaining a careful distance from the approaching entities. On Okafor's command, they launched their first salvo, 40 nuclear missiles streaking toward the 7 void entities. The explosions were blindingly bright, momentarily overloading the ship's visual sensors. When the displays cleared, the entities remained, apparently untouched by weapons that could have destroyed a small moon. "No effect," reported the tactical officer. "Wait, there's something." The lead entity's movement has slowed slightly. "They felt that," Martins said. "It wasn't enough to hurt them, but they felt it." "All ships, prepare energy weapons," Okafor ordered. "Let's see if we can find something they don't like." What followed was a methodical testing of every weapon system the human fleet possessed. Particle beams, laser arrays, plasma projectors, kinetic impactors. Each was deployed against the entities with varying results. Most had minimal effect, but some caused noticeable reactions, slight changes in course, momentary distortions in the entity's structure, brief pauses in their advance. Through it all, the Velderi scientists observed and analyzed, their advanced sensors detecting minute changes invisible to human instruments. Their null space field fluctuates when exposed to certain energy frequencies, Thalen reported, excitement evident in his voice. "The quantum harmonics of your plasma weapons seem to create interference patterns in their structure." "Can we exploit that?" Okafor asked. "Perhaps, if we could create a resonance cascade. A synchronized attack using precisely modulated energy at specific frequencies. Like using sound waves to shatter glass," Dr. Mbiki suggested. "We need to find their resonant frequency and hit them with everything we've got at exactly that frequency." The void entities were closing on the human fleet now, moving with purpose that suggested intelligence. Whatever they were, they had recognized humanity as a threat. All ships, retreat to secondary defensive position. Okafor ordered. We need time to recalibrate our weapons. As the fleet pulled back, one of the entities suddenly accelerated, pursuing the EDF horizon with uncanny precision. Before the ship could evade, tentacle-like projections extended from the entity's mass, reaching toward the human vessel. Horizon, maximum thrust. Okafor shouted into the comm. Get out of there. The Horizon's engines flared brilliantly as it pushed to emergency speed, but the entity's projections moved faster, wrapping around the ship's engineering section. Where they touched, the hull simply ceased to exist, matter dissolving into nothing. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice came over the comm, steady despite the dire situation. Resolute, this is Horizon. We're losing structural integrity. Engineering and life support compromised. We have 3 minutes before total dissolution. Abandon ship, Okafor ordered. We'll cover your escape pods. Negative, Resolute, Vasquez replied. We've got an idea. Horizon out. The comm went silent. On the tactical display, the Horizon's energy signature suddenly spiked to unprecedented levels. They're overloading their reactors, Lai realized. They're going to. The explosion, when it came, was unlike anything Okafor had ever seen. The Horizon didn't simply detonate. It seemed to implode first, collapsing in on itself before erupting in a blinding flash that momentarily tore a hole in space itself. When the sensors cleared, the entity that had attacked the Horizon was visibly damaged, its perfect symmetry disrupted, its movement erratic. They found a weakness, Martine said quietly. The reactors. The exotic matter in the FTL drives. It affected the entity. Captain Vasquez and her crew sacrificed themselves to show us how to fight these things, Okafor said, grief and determination warring in her voice. We're not going to waste their sacrifice. With renewed purpose, the human fleet regrouped. The battle plan that emerged was desperate, but built on what they'd learned. The fleet's largest ships would modify their FTL drives to create focused implosions of exotic matter, targeting the entity's null space fields at precisely calculated points. As preparations were made, the Veldari observed in silent awe. They had never witnessed such deliberate self-sacrifice, such willingness to risk everything against impossible odds. Your people are. Ilaris struggled to find the words as she spoke with Okafor over the comm. You face extinction and respond with determination. Not fear, not despair, but determination. It's what humans do, Okafor replied simply. When backed into a corner, we fight back. Always. The modified weapons were ready within hours, a testament to human ingenuity under pressure. The fleet moved into attack formation, prepared for their desperate gambit. All ships, Okafor broadcast, remember the Intrepid, remember the Horizon. Today we fight not just for Earth, not just for the Veldari, but for all life in this sector of the galaxy. Execute attack plan Sierra. The human fleet advanced toward the void entities, weapons primed, and courage undimmed. The battle begins. The human fleet's counterattack began with precision that belied the experimental nature of their weapons. 6 ships targeted the damaged entity, their modified FTL drives creating localized implosions that tore at the creature's null space field. The entity's surface rippled violently, geometric patterns disintegrating as it struggled to maintain cohesion. It's working, Dr. Mbiki exclaimed, eyes fixed on her readings. The exotic matter is disrupting its multidimensional structure. All ships, concentrate fire, Okafor ordered. Don't let up. The damaged entity began to collapse in on itself, its perfect symmetry broken. As the human ships continued their assault, something unexpected happened. The entity released a pulse of energy unlike anything their sensors had detected before. The pulse rippled outward, passing harmlessly through the human vessels, but triggering an immediate response from the other entities. They converged, surrounding their wounded companion in a geometric formation that suggested purpose and coordination. They're protecting it, Martinez observed. They're showing defensive behavior. That implies social structure, Thelen said, his bioluminescent patterns brightening with excitement. Perhaps even some form of consciousness. Whatever they are, they can be hurt, Okafor replied. And that means they can be stopped. The remaining entities moved with newfound aggression, advancing on the human fleet in a coordinated assault. Tendrils of null space extended from their surfaces, reaching for the closest human vessels. Evasive maneuvers, Okafor ordered. Do not let them make contact. The battle descended into chaos as human ships dodged and weaved, firing their modified weapons whenever possible. 2 more vessels were lost, the Beijing and the Sao Paulo, their crews sacrificing themselves to damage the entities attacking them. On the bridge of the Resolute, smoke filled the air as systems overloaded under the strain of combat. Emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow. Shield generators at critical levels, reported the engineering officer. 1 more direct interaction with a null space field, and we're finished. Captain Okafor surveyed the tactical display grimly. The human fleet was down to 10 ships, all damaged to varying degrees. They had managed to destroy 1 entity completely and damage 2 others, but the remaining 4 showed no signs of retreating. We need a new approach, she said. We can't win a war of attrition. It was Commander Lai who suggested the decisive strategy. The entities communicate with each other. We've seen evidence of it in their coordinated movements. What if we could disrupt that communication? How? Martins asked. We don't even understand how it works. The Veldari might. Lai turned to Thelen. You've been observing these entities for years. Have you detected any form of communication between them? The alien scientist's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. Yes, there are quantum fluctuations that occur when they coordinate their actions, a form of entanglement that defies our understanding of physics. We believed it was merely a byproduct of their nature, not a communication medium. Could we generate similar fluctuations? Dr. Mbeki asked. Create interference. Perhaps with sufficient power. The plan that emerged was audacious. The Resolute would modify its quantum communication array, technology provided by the Veldari, to generate a massive pulse of entangled particles tuned to the same frequency as the entity's communications. It's a long shot, Mbeki admitted. We're essentially trying to jam communications we barely understand using technology we've only just acquired. Sometimes a long shot is all you have, Okafor replied. Make it happen. As the engineering team worked to modify the communication array, the rest of the fleet continued their desperate battle, drawing the entity's attention away from the Resolute. Ship after ship took damage, systems failing as they pushed their experimental weapons beyond safe limits. Modification complete, Mbeki finally reported. But there's a problem. The power requirements are enormous. We'll need to divert everything. Life support, engines, shields, everything. How long will we be vulnerable? Okafor asked. 3 minutes to generate the pulse, another 2 for systems to come back online. 5 minutes total where we're completely defenseless. Okafor nodded. Inform the fleet. They need to keep those things off us for 5 minutes. The order went out, and the remaining human ships responded with grim determination. They positioned themselves between the Resolute and the entities, preparing to make their stand. All non-essential personnel to escape pods, Okafor ordered. Minimum crew only for this operation. With respect, Captain, Commander Lai said quietly, I think you'll find there are no non-essential personnel left on board. We all know what's at stake. Okafor looked around the bridge at her crew, faces set with determination, not a hint of fear or doubt among them. Humanity at its finest hour, light years from the world that had birthed them. Begin power diversion, she ordered. Initiate pulse sequence. The lights on the Resolute dimmed as power flowed to the modified communication array. The ship became still, defenseless in the midst of battle. Around them, the remaining vessels of the human fleet engaged the entities with desperate courage, drawing their attention away from the vulnerable flagship. Outside the ship, the battle raged with fury. The EDF Ganymede, its weapons depleted, deliberately collided with an entity that was approaching the Resolute, its FTL drive detonating in a controlled implosion that tore a hole in the creature's structure. The Esperanza used the last of its power to generate a massive electromagnetic pulse that momentarily disrupted another entity's movement. Ship after ship placed itself in harm's way, buying time with courage and blood. On the Resolute's bridge, Mbeki counted down the seconds. Pulse charging. 90%. 95%. On the tactical display, they watched as the EDF Kilimanjaro, the last ship standing between them and the largest entity, took a direct hit. The ship began to dissolve, its structure unraveling from bow to stern. Pulse ready. Mbeki shouted. Fire, Okafor ordered. The quantum pulse erupted from the Resolute, invisible to human eyes, but registering as a blinding flare on their instruments. It expanded outward at the speed of light, washing over the entities in waves of quantum disruption. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entities' perfect geometries distorted, their movements becoming erratic. The tendrils of null space they had extended retracted violently, causing further disruption to their structures. It's working, Martinez exclaimed. They're losing cohesion. The entities began to move away from one another, their coordinated defense strategy broken. Two collided in their confusion, their null space fields interacting catastrophically, tearing them both apart in a silent explosion of impossible geometries. Power systems coming back online, reported the engineering officer. Shields at 15%, weapons at 30% and rising. Target the most damaged entity, Okafor ordered. All remaining ships, coordinate fire. The human fleet, reduced to just 7 vessels, rallied for one final assault. They fired their remaining exotic matter weapons at the disoriented entities, targeting the disruptions in their null space fields. One by one, the entities began to collapse, their multi-dimensional structures unable to maintain cohesion under the coordinated attack. The last entity, larger than the others and seemingly more resilient, turned away from the battle, accelerating toward deep space. They're retreating, Lai said in disbelief. We actually drove them off. The bridge crew erupted in exhausted cheers, the reality of their victory sinking in. They had faced an incomprehensible enemy and prevailed through sacrifice, ingenuity, and sheer human determination. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the cost became clear. Of the 15 ships that had set out from Earth, only 7 remained, all heavily damaged. Thousands of lives had been lost, heroes who had died far from home to protect not just humanity, but an alien civilization that had once considered them too dangerous to contact. Open a channel to Veldara Prime, Okafor ordered, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. High Chancellor Ilaris appeared on the main screen, her crystalline features arranged in what Okafor had learned to recognize as profound astonishment. You succeeded, the alien leader said, her translated voice carrying notes of disbelief and wonder. You drove back the void entities. You sacrificed yourselves for us. We did what we came to do, Okafor replied simply. The Concord has existed for 12,000 years, Ilaris continued. In all that time, we have never witnessed anything like what your people have shown us today. We have much to learn from humanity. As the human fleet limped back to Veldara Prime for repairs, the survivors were greeted as heroes by a civilization that had never known war, but now understood the valor that could emerge from it. The battle was over, but the true revolution, the change in how these two vastly different civilizations viewed each other, was just beginning. Unexpected allies. 6 months after the Battle of Veldara Prime, the transformed relationship between humanity and the Veldari Concord had borne remarkable fruit. The humans had established a permanent presence in Concord space, a diplomatic mission, a scientific exchange program, and a small defense force to guard against the possible return of the void entities. The Veldari Ancillary, a massive space station orbiting Veldara Prime, had become the nexus of this unprecedented cooperation. Its corridors and chambers hosted humans and all 4 species of the Concorde, working together to integrate their vastly different technologies and philosophies. Captain Amara Okafor, now Admiral Okafor, stood in the observation dome of the ancillary, gazing out at the combined human Velderi fleet undergoing exercises in the distance. The human vessels, with their utilitarian design and obvious weapon systems, contrasted sharply with the elegant biomechanical ships of the Velderi. Yet they moved in perfect coordination, a testament to how far both sides had come. "It's impressive," said High Chancellor Ilaris, joining her at the viewport. "6 months ago, my people could not comprehend the concept of defense. Now we